Yes, afternoon, people. How you doing? Thought I'd do a quick stream. I only set this up a while ago, so apologies for the lack, or what shall I say, short notice. Hope you're all well, man. Hope you enjoyed last night, all you gooners, because that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit going into the weekend. Last night's result. It wasn't really a wet one last night. I expected it to be. It was wet all day, and in the evening, it actually was quite dry in London. So we didn't get absolutely soaked, which is always a bit of a bonus because it's been an absolute washout the last few days in England, and everybody in London's been getting soaking. And to be fair, everyone around the country's been getting soaking wet. So it was nice to actually have a pleasant, dry evening for the first time, and it wasn't too cold either. Great to see Champions League back at the Emirates. Obviously, in the first game against PSV, it was a really positive performance, and it was probably one of the best games that we've seen this season in terms of what Arsenal produced on the night. And I think last night was another one of those. It was a very comfortable victory for Arsenal Football Club. And I think the way that we played actually showed a little bit of creativity and fluidity, which was something we've been missing in the last few games, I think, anyway. We're going to get into that. Make sure you do us a favor. Any questions you've got for me, I'm more than happy to ask. Throw them into the chat. I'll get through as many as I can. Any other super chats will, of course, go to the front of the queue. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. We're getting very close to 13K, people. So let's make sure that we can get as close as we can to that over the coming days, because that is, of course, our next target. Our next big target is going to be 15K, of course. So make sure that we can get us as close to that as possible. Listen, I was really impressed by what I saw last night with two players in particular. And there's another two that I want to mention that are starting to put in consistent performances that I think are going a little bit under the radar. I think there was also good performances from a couple of individuals that I've not been very impressed with of late that actually did show their quality last night. But the first thing I suppose to start with, let's start with a bit of the negative, shall we? Seville, how poor are they? They were poor. And I understand that they rested a lot of their players. Apparently, they got Real Betis this weekend, which is their equivalent of their derby. And I think their derby is very similar to the North London derby in terms of how important it is for them to actually try and pick up results there. But I must say it was a really poor performance from Seville. I don't think they really offered much at all in terms of an attacking threat. I think they came to the Emirates to try and take something from it, but there wasn't really anything that they could do in front of our goal. I think David Raya collected the ball in the 96th minute, which ended up being their only shot on target for Seville. Really poor, if I'm honest. And some of the players they were bringing on, Rakitic made his substitution, and I thought, wow, we had Samare, who I think come off and had started. Lamela was playing, but there was some changes in players that I'd not really heard of, to be fair. So when it comes to Seville, I was quite shocked at how poor they were last night, if I'm honest with you. But listen, we're going to take a look at Arsenal's performance in particular now. The players that really impressed me last night, the title of this video, the front three, it just looked better. And I've been crying out now for Trossard. I've been crying out for Trossard to actually play in that 9. And when we started Trossard in defence to Mikel Arteta, it ain't really worked. Trossard's been seen as more of an impact player. He's been seen as more of a player you bring on and a player that can actually change a game in the last 25. But actually, he started last night and I thought he was really good. And it wasn't like he was electric and the best player on the pitch. It wasn't like he played a 9 out of 10 or out of his skin. But I liked a lot of what he did. And if you look at that game again and watch what he brought to the team, you'll see that it is a hell of a lot more than what Kai Havertz or Eddie can do up there when Jesus is out. And I do think he is clear and above the rest now when it comes to talking about who plays ahead of Gabriel Jesus. So for me, it's really key to see Trossard playing in this side. And I want to see the same when we go to the Burnley game at the weekend, because I think that front three works so well together. And I'll tell you why. Trossard plays as the number 9. He can drop, he can come deeper, he can go over to the right or the left. And there's the interlinking of play and the switching of positions last night that I think caused massive problems to Seville. And in the end, they became extremely and incredibly frustrated by just lashing out at us, fouling us, because they just couldn't do anything else. They wanted to try and get the ball off of us. They couldn't. And it got to a stage for me where it was just, kicking us. Unfortunately, there's a lot of teams that have done that in the past. I think it's fair to say we probably actually haven't seen teams do that to us for some time. Maybe it's because we're a little bit more physical now. If I take you back 10 years, maybe even 15 years, the only way to beat Arsenal was to kick us. We haven't seen that for a while because we've had players that have come into the mix like Partey, Gabriel, Rice, Granit Xhaka of old, Saliba, Ben White. They're not players that get kicked up in the air anymore. And I think that's definitely changed at Arsenal. And we've got more of a physical presence about us. But when it comes to Saka and Martinelli, yeah, they get kicked. And I think it was 17 minutes. I looked up at the TV screen last night and Saka had been fouled 5 times. I'm not sure where the fouls were, but Sam, who obviously you know from doing our edits and our clips here, was at the game with me last night. And he said that PSG in the game the night before had less fouls than the whole game than Saka had in 17 minutes. That just proves where we're at. And Saka is a player that people team up on. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But the next player I want to talk about is Martinelli, because for me, he was man of the match. He was absolutely outstanding. That right back called Sanchez for Seville is not going to sleep well in the next couple of nights, remembering the nightmare that he had last night against Gabriel Martinelli. Martinelli was phenomenal, and he was roasting him every time. You can talk about end product. You can talk about his final ball if you want to, but I put that more down to everybody around Martinelli, because for me, Gabriel Martinelli was sensational. He made things happen. He took players on. He was a constant threat all night. He absolutely roasted. He tore him and he was twisting and turning. The tenacity that guy shows to win the ball back and the hard-working player that he is, the work rate, how passionate he is, the desire and hunger he has to win the football back. I'm so impressed with him, man. I just love the player. You know, I called him our best left winger in the Premier League. And I called him the best left winger in the Premier League towards the start of the season. I don't know when it was. Was it against Manchester United or was it against a team? Maybe it was like against one of the first teams. Maybe it was Forest. I think it was Nottingham Forest, actually, one of our first games. And people laughed at me and said that's out of order. He's not the best left winger in the league. Grealish is better, and Rashford is better, and Mitoma is better. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. I think Martinelli's the best left winger in the league. He might not be the best winger in the league. You can have debate whether there's the Stallas and of course the Sackas that come into the mix. But for me, I personally believe that Martinelli is the best left winger in the Premier League. And I think he showed why last night yet again. Tenacious, unbelievable consistency with his game throughout the time that he was on the pitch. He didn't have any moment in the game where he went out of it. He was just absolute live wire. So for me, man of the match, absolutely brilliant. And I just loved the way the front three were working. I thought Saka worked tirelessly. He was taking his player on. Thought he really did well to get his goal well taken. And I think likewise when Trossard scored, that's a very, very good ball from Jorginho, by the way. Saka crosses it in, and it's a great first-time effort from Trossard. It was very difficult to get that, to be fair. Had to hit that then and did. And to be fair, we go 1-0 up. And then Martinelli creates a second one, doesn't he? And Saka goes through and he's got to keep composed. And what I liked about it was it reminded me very similarly to Jesus' third goal against Man United this season at the Emirates, where he just took his time, dinked it across, sold the defender, and then slotted it home. And it was pretty much identical, but on the opposite side, using his left foot, not his right. And I was really, really impressed by that, just as I was when Jesus did the same thing. I have to say, I thought there was 2 other performances that were just so, so good and have been for so long now. I think they've been our 2 best players this season by quite some way. And I'm, of course, talking about Declan Rice and William Saliba. I think they're both beasts, and I think they're both Rolls Royce in their position. Now, Declan Rice can play 6 and 8. We'll start with him. This season, he's been consistent. He's been phenomenal. He's been a leader. He's been monstrous. He's been strong. He's had the desire and drive to move forward. And he's been happy to play in both 6 and 8 positions. You know, he said in the interview that he gets excited when Mikel Arteta tells him he's playing in the 8. That, to me, shows a really good attitude, because some people might be out of their comfort zone. If you've been used to playing as a 6 for most of your life and also started off as a centre-back, you've got those defensive minds straight away. But actually moving forward, he's been phenomenal. He really has. I've been so, so impressed by what I've seen from Declan Rice. And of course, William Saliba, you know, he makes that mistake, then he catches up with him, then he makes the tackle. And I had the confidence that he was going to catch up with him and he was going to make the tackle. I always think back to Football Manager or FIFA, if you guys are into that. I haven't played either of those for a number of years now. But I always remember the cards and I always remember the attributes And I always remember in Football Manager, it was out of 20. And of course, it's different in FIFA. But if we stick to Football Manager and you click on William Saliba and you look at the attributes of a defender, he's got to be out of 20, at least 16 out of 20 in all of them now, leading up to B20. Because I don't remember seeing a centre half this good since Rio Ferdinand at the age of 21. And I look at it and I think positioning, pace, aggression, tackling, winning in the air, ball playing, passing ability, interceptions, making up for mistakes. I don't know anything that he can't do. Somebody please explain to me that. There might be weaknesses to his game. I don't see any. I honestly don't see any in William Saliba. This is madness. Because with Gabriel, you can say similarly that he's a top defender, but you know what his mistakes are. And some of it's up there, and he needs a calming defender and presence next to him. I can't believe how good William Saliba is. And it doesn't matter whether it's against Manchester City, Seville, Spurs, Burnley, Stoke City, Huddersfield, Chesterfield. You can put any single game, throw it at me. This guy's performing at top level, at medium level, and at low level. This guy has been so good for us. And what I have seen, he can get even better, which is scary. And I hope it's with Arsenal. That's all I'll say. I hope he stays with Arsenal forever. He's an absolute beast of a defender. And I love everything about him. So those two deserve credit. And the other two I'm going to mention are Ben White and Zinchenko, because I don't think they've had amazing seasons. I think Ben White has been good, and I think he's been okay in a number of games, and I think he's been poor in a number of games. But last night, I thought he was solid. And Zinchenko come on and showed a little bit of the old Zinchenko. I liked what I saw. I really did. I really did like what I saw, because I felt like he was playing in that inverted role, which kind of was allowed to do by Seville, but also he was really effective with it. And I thought that everything he did was actually really good. I thought he won the ball back a few times. His passing was a lot better. Didn't give the ball away as much. Everything going forward was good. And on the ball, it was really positive. He actually went over to the right-hand side at one stage when Saka had to come off and Kivior come on, and he defended well and he got back well and he went forward well. And I think Zinchenko, as a footballer, sometimes gets forgotten about how good he is. So I was really impressed with that performance by both of them. David Raya, I think he kicked the ball out once or twice again, but let's be real, he was actually really good. With his feet, he was great, commanding, didn't have much to do, played out well from the back, and I was impressed with his performance. Another clean sheet. Good to see clean sheets at the Emirates as well. We haven't kept many, have we? But we've managed to keep a couple in the last few. So I'm really, really glad for him there. And I think the performance in general was actually quite good. But I do want to come on to a couple of your questions. And I do want to come on to one player. Salvatore says, Dan, I think our fan base is delusional about Kai Havertz. This signing will end up affecting us. G. Weber says, why is Arteta still forcing Havertz into this side? He's trying to play Havertz till he's good, till he has a good game, and it's to justify the signing. Let's talk on Havertz. I didn't think he was shocking, but I certainly didn't think he was very good. And I get frustrated when I hear a lot of fans saying, but look at what he's doing. He's running. Look at what he's doing. He's winning headers. Look at what he's doing. He's held the ball up. Look at what he's done. He's passed it. He's linked up play. I need to see more from Kai Havertz if that's what he's going to be doing and praised for, because I see a lot of the players do that and get no praise for it. It's like we have a magnifying glass on Kai Havertz. It's as if I think somebody mentioned it last night in one of my WhatsApp groups, big up to Red Ken. He said, Kai Havertz is like he's built up enough nectar points, so now he's been given an Arsenal shirt to wear for the night. And I honestly believe he was kind of true there. What was his position? I don't know if it was in midfield. I don't know if it was on the wing. I don't know if it was 8, if it was 10, if it was 9. You couldn't tell. And he works hard. I'll give him that. He does. He works hard. But I don't see enough ability on the ball. I don't see a threat in front of goal. I don't see someone who's going to create something for us. I don't see someone who is vital or pivotal to the way that we're moving the ball forward. So I have to just call it out as I see it. I do not personally feel like this guy's going to work for us. And I think sometimes you've just got to say it how it is. Your eyes don't lie to you. There's not enough there. He had a chance in the game, which actually wasn't too far wide. He cut in on his left and had a shot, and it went wide. But other than that, there wasn't anything spectacular. He had a chance right at the end, which was a brilliant first touch, by the way. Great technical ability. and then couldn't get the shot away. So nothing's coming off for him at the moment, but he's got to do better. He's got to do more for me. And I have to see that. I really do. It seems to me as if we're praising this guy, and I'll bring it up. Salvatore said exactly as I'm thinking. Seems like the guy's getting praised for the bare minimum, and that's not good enough. I totally agree with that, and I do think that is going to have to come back on Mikel Arteta, who's got to get the most out of him. He really has. Salvatore says Saliba, Rice, and Saka are our best players. I'd throw in Gabriel into that mix as well. I think Gabriel, Rice, and Saliba have definitely come into the mix as our best, most consistent players, and I think Saka and Martinelli, along with Odegaard, add on to that. There's a mention of how long Odegaard's out for. There's no real timeline on Odegaard, Partey, Smith Rowe, Urian Timber, as well, and Gabriel Jesus. But after the international break, I'd like to think there's a couple that are going to make it and make the bench at least for the next game when we get back. Odegaard, I don't think is serious. I think it's going to be like a couple of games. I expect him to be back after the international break. Partey, I'm hearing, is going to be longer. Smith Rowe, I'm hearing, is going to be longer. Timber, we know about it being long term. There are slight rumours that he started some light training in terms of without the ball, just light running. So maybe it could be moved forward to the new year, and we might see at the end of January, Urian Timber coming back into the mix. That would be quite good. Tomiyasu was injured, was substituted last night. And I'm not sure if it was an injury or if it was just tactical. I'm hoping it was tactical because we saw him come off at Newcastle and Zinchenko get given the nod. So I'm hoping it was like that. I haven't heard any injury news about Tomiyasu today, so I imagine it was just a tactical substitution, and I pray and hope that's the case because he's been phenomenal for us of late. And he's a player I look at and think that you're actually one I really like as a squad player. You're one that can come in, versatility as well, one-on-one defending, aerial ability. He's got a lot of strengths, Tomiyasu, and I think he's played really well so far this season. So I hope that he isn't injured. So there's a lot of positives from last night. We're pretty much going through our group now. We've got PSV and Lens. We've got Lens at home next. PSV away is the last game. If we beat Lens, we go through. We pretty much going to confirm to go through and win our group if we get that victory. So that's what we need. That is what we need. And I do believe that we'll do that. I think we'll win both our games, if I'm honest. I know Lens was difficult away, but at home it's a different story. And PSV away, we lost last year in the Europa League. But at that point, I'm hoping it won't matter too much and that we can actually rotate and just either breeze through it or try and put out a fight with our B team, because that to me is not an important game for long as we've won the group and gone through. Champions League, what do we think? What do we honestly think this season? What's a good tournament for us? Is it to win it? Is it to get to a final? Is it realistic to say that a semi-final is a good year? Where are people at? Because for me, I want to win it. I expect to get to at least the semi-finals, and I expect to only lose to 3 teams in this competition, and that's Man City, Real Madrid, or Bayern Munich. They're the only 3 teams I look at and go, yeah, fair play. Because Barcelona, PSG, all the Italy clubs, all the other French, Spanish clubs, I'm looking at beating. Because for me, they're not as good as Arsenal on paper, and I think that Arsenal can beat them. So if we lose to Real Madrid because Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. have tore us apart, if we're losing to Bayern Munich because Sane and Kane and Musiala have all absolutely destroyed us, if we're losing to Man City because Haaland's done his thing, I can probably sleep better at night knowing that, yeah, we've lost to some top quality sides. But if we lose to Bayern Leverkusen or Porto or Benfica, I'm going to be a bit annoyed because I don't feel like we should be at this stage in our process, as people like to call it. I think we should be going all out to win it, and I expect us to get to the latter stages. If he doesn't take the FA Cup seriously like he did in the Carabao Cup, I'll be annoyed. But at the same time, if people are going to start saying that we can't take all of these competitions seriously, then I need to be seeing what this order of priority is. Because for me, I don't think there should be one. Go for all the competitions, right? It's fair enough saying we prioritize this, prioritize that. We should be taking the 3 competitions that we're left in seriously. And I want to see strong teams in every single game. And if we're going to rotate, don't do what you did against West Ham. Do 2 or 3. Bring Tomiyasu in. Bring Fabio Vieira in. Bring Kai Havertz in. Then stop that. That'll do. None of this making 8, 9 changes. Because what that does is it just completely destroys any momentum and any togetherness and understanding and telepathy that you had within that side, because they've never played together. It's all different players, different options. So that's what I want to be seeing, guys. Listen, I'm going to leave it there. Big up everybody in the chat. Make sure you do me a favor and like it and subscribe it and do all of that malarkey. We're going to see you next time. I'm probably going to try and do something over the next couple of days, and then running up to the weekend of Burnley. And then, of course, we'll be back next week with all of the other shows. Make sure you like on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the Arsenal. Take it easy, people.